Well, Saints wide receiver Chris Olave is expected to head to injured reserve later today, a move that we kind of saw coming. John Hendricks here, Second and Saints and Saints News Network, coming at you to talk a little bit about that. Look, this is not surprising. Look, in-house, they had said all along that Chris Olave's getting some opinions, met with the team, met with some independent guys, and obviously his family is involved. This is his second concussion in less than a month, third concussion in less than a year. So obviously he's going to do what's best for Chris Olave, right? And I think that's obviously the right move. Look, regardless of how it happened, what the circumstances were, this is bigger than the Saints losing a wide receiver, but obviously they are losing a top tier wide receiver. For Chris Olave, again, it's scary, right? I mean, concussions. He wore the Guardian cap in practice. Said he wasn't going to wear it during the game. The hit that came in, obviously controversial. We'll see later on Saturday if it did draw a fine, which most cases it probably will. I mean, if it looks that bad, it's going to warrant some type of fine from the NFL. But look, Chris Olave is going to be out for a minimum of 4 games, and honestly, I'd be surprised if he comes back. Right? Like, let's just play this out. That's 13 games in the season. Saints aren't in a position to really make anything of this season. I don't know if we'll see him again. They've already lost Rashid Shaheed, and then they've lost Bub Means to a high ankle sprain, and so this Saints wide receiver core is depleted, right? Like, they have 3 healthy wide receivers on the roster. Equinemius St. Brown on the practice squad, Kevin Austin Jr. on the practice squad, and Dante Pettis. But aside that, on the active roster, it's Jermaine Jackson, Mason Tipton, and Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I mean, they are in a really bad boat to be in as far as the depth goes. And look, I'll talk a little bit more about that future, but as far as Chris Olave goes, I mean, look, it's a scary situation. I mean, that was being there in Charlotte at the game. Uh, Everybody in the press box, all of us that cover this team on the road and stuff. I mean, we were just kind of like our breath held. I mean, because it looked bad. Like, it looked really bad. And we were just wondering, is this guy going to move? Right. Like, I mean, anytime you have head injuries like that and the violent nature of the sport, these things tend to happen. And so, look, I don't think there's any hurry for Chris Olave to get back on the field. Again, I'd be surprised if we see him again this season. That's kind of something that's been said weeks ago when this happened, or a week ago when this happened, right? Because this is still kind of fresh. But for Olave, it's look, he's talented as everything, and the Saints, they're going to have a lot of questions to answer the direction that they want to go. I don't know if Olave says he's going to hang it up completely, but retirement might be on the table because of all these things that continue to happen. I mean, concussions will limit your time in the NFL. I mean, you're literally taking a vicious hit, your brain, all that other stuff. Like, it's not a good experience to go through, right? But for the Saints, now, regardless of what happens to Chris Olave, like, this next offseason, when they come up in 2025, they got to figure some stuff out, right? Like, wide receiver, the depth ain't it. It's just has not been where it needs to be. All along, I guess they tried to kind of sell us on this. Well, you don't really need the possession style receiver like Mike Thomas. And, look, Thomas had his feelings on this entire situation, which a lot of people are going to have their feelings on this situation. And I understand, I get that. And, just try to be objective on this one. That, Olave, anytime that you have a major injury like this, which I think a concussion is a major injury, there's several steps in getting back onto the field. But you got to meet with neurologists, you got to meet with specialists. This process is something that he and the organization need to be tight on. And I know that the family involved, that, there's going to be some differing opinions on this. And ultimately, it's got to be what 12 wants to do for 12, right? Like, does 12 want to keep playing? Does 12 want to, do it here? Does he want to move on? Like, it's all these things, right? And we're getting ahead of ourselves. But the main thing is that Chris Olave doing what's best for him and seeking the help, the care, the education to say, okay, if I continue to play, uh, what does that do for me long term? And what kind of side effects can I have? Because as well as I do, back in the old days of the NFL, 80s, 90s, they had that lawsuit in the NFL, all that other stuff over the concussions. And I mean, it makes a difference, right? And so anytime you get a concussion, you're second in less than a month. That's a big concern. And look, I think for Olave, I think this is a thing where you got to look at all the aspects and the different things that are on the table. And of course, they're going to have to, the Saints, they're going to have to get by without him. It's going to be struggle bus for a team that's obviously made a big changing the guard, if you will, so to speak, firing Dennis Allen, putting Darren Rizzi in charge. Look, this is a thing where you're going to assess a lot of things. And I don't question Chris Olave, right? Like that's one thing where you say, okay, I don't think I'm worried about what Chris Olave does to me on the field or anything like that. But, at the same time, a lot to contemplate. Chris Olave's heading to injured reserve, 4 games minimum. Might be longer than that. And nobody can blame him. Again, the season has been extremely disappointing. The team has talked about only getting back to 500 as their goal. But they're going to miss the playoffs for the 4th straight year, barring some type of Disney miraculous finish for this team, which I just don't see. Right. But at any rate, Chris Olave is going to be heading to IR. And, for Saints fans, obviously should be more concerned about his long-term health instead of him just not being available on the field. But wish him the best. Hope he gets the care that he needs, and hope to see him back on the field one day because he's hella talented. And yes, I did say hella, but he's got a lot to offer. He's a really super talented wide receiver who is just been a breath of fresh air for this team. And so, look, you just wish him the best. And again, I hope to see 12 back on that field one day. That's going to do it for today. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button for Second and Saints, and find us on all the different social platforms that are out there. And, don't forget to tell your mother, tell your father, tell all your friends, all that good stuff. And we'll see you soon. Thanks.